Someone is completely consumed by thoughts of you. But at this moment, you cannot be together with this person. Somewhere deep inside, your inner sense already knows that this connection is real. Even when your own thoughts try to push the feeling away or convince you that you are imagining everything, take a slow breath and listen closely, because what you are about to hear is not simply random. It is not something you created inside your mind for no reason. The person who suddenly came into your thoughts did not appear there without meaning. There is a powerful and quiet connection between the two of you, one that neither of you can fully explain and neither of you can easily leave behind. It is not just a passing thought that appears for a moment and then disappears. It is something deeper, something steady, something that
continues quietly beneath everything else, even when neither of you speaks about it. They feel drawn toward you in a way that is incredibly strong, yet they are also carefully holding themselves back. It is a kind of emotion they may have never truly allowed themselves to experience before now. Something about you reached a place inside them that they usually keep protected, and still, something continues to keep the two of you apart. Something makes this connection feel restricted, complicated, or even forbidden. Understanding why this is happening can completely change the way you look at every thought, every emotion, every memory, and every moment you have shared. Even with physical distance separating you, there is someone somewhere who is deeply occupied by thoughts of you. But right now, this unusual and meaningful connection is not something they feel free to act upon.
This entire situation reveals two important truths that you need to understand clearly. Before you continue, take one slow and gentle breath, because perhaps these words are reaching you at a moment when you are finally ready to understand what has been happening beneath the surface. If this silent love message connects with something you have already been feeling, press like so that someone else who needs to hear this message may also find it. You did not necessarily come across these words for no reason. The person who appeared in your thoughts while you were listening may be connected to your life in a deeper way than you have been willing to admit. It may be someone who keeps returning to your mind without you deliberately thinking about them. It may be someone whose memory appears suddenly when everything around you is quiet. It may even be someone you have tried to forget, yet somehow their presence continues to return. There is a person connected to your emotional world who shares a bond with you that feels much deeper than an ordinary attraction. This is not simply a short emotional moment. It is not something light, temporary, or easy to dismiss. It feels profound. It feels steady. It remains quietly present in the background of your life. They are attracted to you, but not in a loud, reckless, or obvious way. Their feelings are controlled. They are measured. They are held inside because some part of them believes that allowing those feelings to come forward could create consequences they are not prepared to face. This is not the kind of attraction that simply demands attention and disappears. It is the kind of feeling that quietly grows while a person is trying to convince themselves that it should not exist. Yet this connection also feels heavily restricted, not because there is no emotion between you, but because something stands directly in the path of what could happen next. There may be circumstances, responsibilities, commitments, fears, or personal boundaries that prevent them from moving toward you. And that restricted nature reveals two very important realities. These realities help explain why this connection can feel so powerful, why there is so much space between you, and why neither of you seems completely able to move forward or completely able to release what is already formed. Before we go deeper into what these realities may mean, if something inside you has already responded to these words, if you felt your breathing change or your attention become stronger while listening, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. This space is for people who sometimes feel things that are difficult to explain to others. You may have experienced a connection that does not make logical sense on the surface,
yet continues to affect you emotionally. You may have tried to tell yourself that it was nothing important. You may have tried to move forward, focus on other things, or simply forget the person. Yet somehow the feeling remains. You must first accept one simple truth. When a relationship or emotional connection feels restricted, that does not automatically mean it is weak. In many situations, it can mean the complete opposite. The more difficult a feeling is to express, the more pressure it can create inside a person. Restricted connections are rarely only surface-level experiences. They usually do not appear simply because life is boring or because someone feels temporarily lonely. They are not always created from a quick attraction that disappears as soon as something new arrives.
Sometimes these connections begin with a deeper recognition that happens inside the heart and the mind before a person even understands what is happening. This person did not sit down one day and deliberately decide to develop strong feelings for you. It happened gradually. At first, you were simply someone they noticed. Perhaps they noticed the way you spoke, the way you carried yourself, the way you looked at them, or the way you seemed to understand something about them without asking many questions. Then, slowly, you became someone they respected. After that, you became someone they trusted. Then you became someone whose presence started to matter more than they expected. And eventually, without clearly realizing when the change happened, you became the person they could not stop thinking about. That is what makes this kind of connection so confusing. There may not have been one single moment when everything changed. Instead, the feeling may have developed through many small moments. A conversation that stayed in their mind longer than it should have. A look that felt different from ordinary eye contact. A small act of kindness that affected them more deeply than expected. A moment of silence that somehow communicated more than words. A memory that kept returning even after they told themselves it should not matter. These small experiences can slowly build an emotional connection that becomes difficult to control. What makes the situation restricted is not necessarily the absence of genuine emotion. It is the circumstances surrounding the emotion. It can be the timing, the responsibilities, the fears, the commitments, the expectations of other people, or the moral lines they have followed for many years. This is where the first major reality becomes visible. This person may be fighting an inner battle every day because of you. They are not necessarily fighting against you. They are struggling with their own feelings, their own thoughts, and their own sense of what they believe they should or should not do. They may wake up in the morning and already have you somewhere inside their thoughts. Then, almost immediately, they remind themselves why they should not follow those thoughts. They may remember something you said during a past conversation and suddenly catch themselves smiling. Then they may become uncomfortable with their own reaction and tell themselves to stop thinking about it. They may imagine what it would feel like to be closer to you, to spend more time with you, or to have the freedom to express what they actually feel. Then they may force those images away because wanting you feels dangerous to them. Not necessarily dangerous to their emotions, but dangerous to the life they have already built and the values they have followed for a long time. For some people, this could mean they are already involved with another person. For others, the obstacle could be family expectations, cultural rules, social responsibilities, personal promises, or moral boundaries they were taught never to cross. Sometimes, one of the two people simply is not emotionally or practically free, which makes the situation far more complicated than ordinary attraction. Sometimes the connection challenges everything the person believed they wanted from life. They may have created a plan for their future, built certain responsibilities around themselves, and convinced themselves that they knew exactly where their life was going. Then you appeared, and suddenly their emotional world did not fit neatly into that plan anymore. Instead of taking action, they hold themselves back. Instead of speaking openly, they remain quiet. Instead of moving closer, they observe you from a distance. Instead of admitting what they feel, they may act as if nothing important is happening.
And here is something that many people completely fail to understand. Silence does not always mean the absence of feelings. Sometimes silence means that the emotions are so intense, complicated, or frightening that the person does not know how to express them without changing everything.
This person may not be calm when it comes to you, even if they appear completely calm on the outside. Their emotions can be powerful while their behavior remains controlled. They may think about you often without ever telling you. They may wonder where you are, what you are doing, whether you still think about them, and whether you ever felt the same emotional pull. They may replay small moments between you and search for meanings they never noticed at the time. Yet they keep all of this inside because speaking could open a door that they are afraid they may not be able to close again.
They do not necessarily take a step toward you, because taking that step could force them to face consequences they are not ready to handle. They do not come closer because closeness could expose emotions they have hidden even from themselves. They may believe that distance is safer. They may think that if they stay quiet long enough, the feelings will eventually disappear. They may tell themselves that time will solve everything. But the problem is that emotions that are pushed down do not always disappear simply because someone refuses to acknowledge them.
Carl Jung spoke about how the things we strongly resist can become even more powerful within us.
That idea fits this kind of emotional situation very closely. The more someone tells themselves that they should not think about you, the more their mind may return to you. Every time they stop themselves from reaching out, the emotional pressure can become stronger. Every time they pull away, the connection can feel even tighter inside their mind. Every time they refuse to admit what they truly feel, the emotion may move deeper into the unconscious instead of disappearing completely.
This does not mean that every thought is destiny, or that every strong attraction must become a relationship. It means that the human mind does not always respond to emotional pressure in a simple way. When a person repeatedly tells themselves, "Do not think about this," their mind may continue bringing the very subject back. When they repeatedly say, "I should not feel this," the feeling can become more noticeable because they are constantly monitoring it. The more energy they use to suppress something, the more attention they may accidentally give it. That is why this person can appear distant while still being emotionally affected by you. From the outside, it may look like they do not care. They may not message you. They may not call you. They may avoid opportunities to be alone with you. They may become unusually quiet when you are nearby. They may even behave as though nothing ever happened. But inside, there can be an entirely different story. They may be trying to control thoughts that keep returning when they least expect them. This may also explain the strange change in energy that you sometimes notice around this connection.
Comment 111 if you are feeling this connection right now. You may have moments when thoughts of this person appear suddenly without any effort from you. You may be doing something completely ordinary, and then their face, their voice, or a particular memory suddenly enters your mind. You may hear a song, see a familiar place, remember a simple conversation, or notice something that reminds you of them. Sometimes the thought appears when you were not trying to remember them at all.
You may also notice changes in your mood that seem difficult to explain.
One moment you feel peaceful, and then suddenly you feel emotionally heavy. You may experience a strange longing, even though nothing happened that day. You may feel as if something unfinished is still present between you. You may wonder why a person you are not even speaking to can still affect your emotions so strongly. You may question why distance has not completely erased the feeling.
You might feel their presence in your thoughts, even during quiet moments, when nothing around you is demanding your attention. You might notice a sense of unfinished emotion that seems to remain between the two of you. This can happen when an emotional experience has not been fully understood or accepted. The mind often returns to unfinished situations because it wants some form of meaning, closure, or understanding. When a connection ends without clear answers, the emotional story may continue inside the person, even when the physical relationship has stopped.
There may be words that were never spoken. There may be questions that were never asked. There may be feelings that were never admitted. There may have been opportunities that both people noticed, but never acted upon. And sometimes the strongest part of a connection is not what happened, but what almost happened. The possibilities can remain alive in the imagination long after the moment has passed. This is the emotional experience can feel so confusing. You are not only remembering what actually happened, you may also be carrying the possibility of what could have happened.
The other person may be doing the same thing. They may wonder what life would look like if circumstances were different. They may imagine what it would be like to speak honestly without fear. They may picture a version of the connection where there were no obstacles, no commitment standing in the way, and no reason to keep everything hidden.
But then reality returns, and they pull themselves back again. This creates an emotional cycle.
They think about you, they feel something, they become aware of the consequences, and then they create distance. After some time, the distance becomes uncomfortable, so the thoughts return again. They may tell themselves that they are finally moving on, only to discover that something small reminds them of you. The feeling rises again, and they once more try to control it. This repeated pattern can make a person feel trapped between desire and responsibility.
They may even become frustrated with themselves. They may ask why they still care. They may wonder why you remain in their mind when they have tried so hard to move forward.
They may believe that something is wrong with them because they cannot simply turn the emotion off. Yet emotions do not always respond to commands. A person can control their actions much more easily than they can control every thought or feeling that appears inside them.
That is why you should not automatically interpret silence as rejection. Silence can have many meanings. Sometimes it means someone has moved on. Sometimes it means they are protecting themselves. Sometimes it means they do not know what to say. Sometimes it means they are afraid of what would happen if they said too much. And sometimes it means a person is trying to respect a boundary even while feeling something powerful on the other side of that boundary. Carl Jung also spoke about the unseen parts of the mind and how what remains unconscious can continue influencing our behavior. Until a person becomes aware of what they are carrying inside, those hidden emotions can guide their reactions without them fully understanding why. They may believe that their behavior is simply fate, coincidence, timing, or circumstance, when underneath it, there may be an emotional conflict they have not yet faced honestly. This is the connection may feel strangely alive, even when nothing visible is happening. The physical world may show distance, silence, and separation, while the inner world remains active. A person can walk away physically and still continue carrying someone emotionally. They can stop talking and still remember every detail. They can appear unaffected while privately struggling with feelings they do not know how to organize. And perhaps this is the most important thing for you to understand. You do not need to force an outcome simply because a connection feels powerful. You do not need to chase someone to prove that the feeling is real. You do not need to break boundaries or interfere with another person's life just to discover what they might feel. Sometimes the deepest understanding comes from allowing the truth of the emotion to exist without immediately demanding an action from it. If this person is truly struggling with feelings for you, their inner conflict is theirs to understand and resolve. Your responsibility is not to carry their confusion for them. Your responsibility is to remain honest with yourself about what you feel, what you need, and what kind of connection is healthy for your life. A strong emotional bond does not automatically mean that two people are meant to be together at any cost. Sometimes a powerful connection teaches you something about yourself before it teaches you anything about another person. The reason their thoughts keep returning may be because the experience touched something meaningful within them. It may have shown them a part of themselves they had ignored. It may have awakened emotions they thought they had outgrown. It may have challenged the life they believed was already settled. And when someone experiences that kind of inner disruption, they often need time to understand what it means. So if you have been wondering why this person can stay so quiet while still seeming emotionally present, remember that people often hide the strongest feelings when they believe those feelings could change their entire life. The person may not be ready to admit everything. They may not even be ready to admit it to themselves. But the internal struggle can still be real. Sometimes the heart recognizes something before the conscious mind knows how to explain it. Sometimes a person becomes important before we understand why. Sometimes distance makes the feeling more noticeable instead of making it disappear. And sometimes what looks like silence from the outside is actually a very loud conversation happening inside someone. You may never see all of that conversation. You may never know every thought that crosses their mind. You may never hear every question they ask themselves when they are alone. But you can understand one thing. People do not always walk away because they feel nothing. Sometimes they walk away because they feel something they do not know how to safely carry. The connection may remain unfinished because the emotions have not been fully understood. The memories may return because they still hold meaning. The silence may continue because speaking would require courage, honesty, and acceptance of consequences. And the distance may remain because, for now, the circumstances are stronger than the desire to come closer. If you have felt this strange connection, do not immediately dismiss your experience. At the same time, do not allow your imagination to become the only source of truth. Pay attention to reality, to actions, to boundaries, and to what is actually happening in your life. Feelings can be powerful, but healthy choices still matter. What someone truly feels should eventually be reflected through responsible and respectful actions, not only through silent longing. For now, understand that the person may be carrying a private emotional struggle that you cannot see. They may think about you more than they ever planned. They may try to suppress the memories and still find them returning. They may create distance and then secretly miss the closeness. They may tell themselves that moving on is the right thing, while another part of them continues asking what could have been.